what are we focusing on today? It's something that I believe has a lot of wide relevance. And it's also very critical because in my journey, I realized that many times you have no idea, we have no idea what other people are dealing with. You've seen people smile. I can never forget the story of Gary Speed. Whoever knows him was a footballer, very successful. The highest dream of his life was to coach his national team. He got that job. Few months into it, on a Saturday like this, he appeared on Sky Sports to talk about the game, and the following morning he was dead. He committed suicide. Now, it shocked everybody. It shocked everybody. So the thing that we are talking about today is not usually written on anybody's face, which is why my last post is saying that you may know somebody that needs to be here, because everybody needs to be here. If you are strong, you need to be aware. And if there are people who are struggling with different things, this is an opportunity for them to get some help. And we have designed this to run in two parts. So what we will be focusing on over the next 2 weeks will be using adversity to your advantage, using adversity to advantage, using adversity to advantage. And if by the time we're done, you know somebody who you think should have been here, the recording will be available. We will upload it to our DLI YouTube channel, and then you can share the link and hopefully somebody can benefit from this. Now, I always like to have quotes that capture the thought that I have on anything, and this is very relevant, by Napoleon Hill, that says that every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. The truth of the matter is that there is nobody that can avoid adversity. We'll come to what adversity means in details down the line. There is nobody. It's like the seasons of life. It's like the weather. There's winter, there's autumn, there's summer. Is the way it is. It goes round, comes round. At different points in time, we will all, without a single exception, face adversity. Therefore, if it is that certain, then it's a life skill that everybody needs to make sure that they have. Now, the way we like to structure HeyCoach is to structure it around stories that can represent the thought line of what we're talking about. And today, the story we're sharing is the story of a young man called Ahmed. Okay? Ahmed left school a few months after NYC, got a job, and then his friends also found their way to different jobs. And then it looked like everybody was fine until, as it's happening in Nigeria, happening in the UK, happening across the globe, things started going awry. Things started getting very tough. The cost of living has shot up globally for different reasons. Some are domestic, some are as a result of the international situation. And Nigeria wasn't left out, and Ahmed and his friends were not left out. So what was the reaction? Even though they normally will hang out every other weekend and they rotate the bill, slowly the crowd started getting smaller. One by one, using Nigerian language, they started jackpying, running, all right? And then it looked like only one person at least was left in Ahmed, and that guy's name was Roti, meaning that they call Rotex. Then, about 2 weeks before this story, Ahmed and Rotimi met, being the last two standing, to just, if you like, share each other's sorrow and just lament about how things are, have a good drink, spend time together, and they move. But on this particular occasion, it turned out that Rotimi had an extra pain because he had to do some dollar transactions that cost him like double what he had the initial budget for. Anyway, as usual, they found something to distract them. This time it was sports. They spoke about it, and then when they were about to go, Ahmed was supposed to have been the one to pay the bill, but Rotimi decided to pay the bill, and so he settled, and then they left. Then Ahmed was still trying to figure out what will happen to him. He went to the point where the joint where they normally would have met based on the agreement, waiting for Rotimi only to see a +447 number on his phone. And then, based on that .447, he picked the call, and guess who was on the other end? It was Rotimi. And Rotimi had to say, my guy, sorry, Namio, I'm now in the UK. I should have told you, but when we discussed how things were going, I saw you were already very sad, and I didn't want to complicate your situation. So I couldn't get myself to tell you. But now I'm in the UK, but don't worry, we're always together. This is my number, save it, we will talk. Now, just imagine how that would have left Rotimi. Sorry, how that would have left Ahmed, I meant to say. Now, Ahmed was lost in his thoughts and was thinking, is this the same Rotimi? We met 2 weeks ago. Why didn't he say anything? When did he even start thinking about this? How come he never mentioned? And then started reflecting that, but it looked like every time we speak about, every time we got around to speaking about traveling, Rotimi never seemed to have any interest, never contributed. How could it have happened? Then he remembered that he had even attempted it before and he lost money. Now, he was completely overwhelmed with the situation. And so the following morning, he wasn't even in any mood to go to work. So when he had an excuse of not going to work, he quickly grabbed it and then stayed home that day. But that didn't cure his sorrow, because he now started suffering from the post-traumatic stress disorder, remembering how it wasn't for the lack of trying that he is still in country. He had lost money twice. That has even stopped him from being adventurous in investing in anything. And now this has happened. How does he pick himself up? How does he get going? This is the setting for the conversation that we have to talk about today. Now, there are 2 parts to this topic, like I said. The first part is the part where we are going to discuss the concept around adversity, what it is about, resilience, how do you build it, and talk about all those things. And then the second part of it will be where we will then try to now situate it in specific context. And when we talk about adversity, there are the macro ones, things that affects everybody, and you just have to find a way to respond. And then there are micro ones, things that affect us closer home, either as individual or things that are very close to us that we are actively involved and we're a player. So when you look at this story setting, the summary of what we are talking about is how do you build resilience? If it is certain that everybody will have to deal with adversity at different times, question then is, how do you build capacity? How do you turn adversity into advantage? How do you ensure that you have the capacity to use it positively to ensure you do not drown? Because it's shocking that globally now, depression. Depression is the #1 cause of disability before cancer, before all those major diseases that we think about. We're talking about one of the highest or the #1 source of disability is depression. And the problem with this is that it's a battle that is fought between the two ears. It's an invisible battle. And because it's invisible and all the bad casting and labeling that goes with it, it is not very often discussed. And so you find people dealing with different level of incapacitation, impaired functioning on the back of depression. That is one of the possibilities of one of the things that can happen to somebody who has not built resilience. So our conversation is about building resilience. Now, before we go too far, I want to quickly just illuminate the two main topics that we're talking about. One is adversity, just in case there's anybody who doesn't really grasp it. Adversity speaks about situation that seems to have turned against an individual, things that are not going as planned, hostile situation, unfavorable situation, situations that are going contrary to plan, sometimes look like they are getting out of control. Then there is a word that we use in the title, which is turning adversity to advantage in a VUCA world. Just in case this is the first time you are saying that word, VUCA is a word that came alive a couple of years ago in response to the situation that was going on globally. And V stands for volatile. And when you talk about volatile, you are talking about things that are unstable and you do not know. It can quickly move from slow to very high without any notice, okay? So it is very difficult to build a model, to build a pattern around it. Uncertain speaks to things that you are not sure of. The cause and effect is not something you can map out. It could go right, it could go left. There is no the level of confidence in an uncertain world is very, very low. You have complex. Talk about complex situations. We are talking about things that are interconnected and there are different combinations where there's a lot of multi-movement that can happen at the same time. So in a complex situation, which is different from being complicated. Complicated is there are different parts. Complex is they move at different combinations can exist at different times. And it is very, very difficult to predict. And when you say it's ambiguous, meaning it's very difficult for you to define. Okay, you do not have any clear pattern. So there are different aspects of things that are not within control. That's a common trend. That's a common trend and thread to VUCA. It is not easy to control. All right. Now, if you have ambiguity, and if you had adversity, adversity is bad enough. If you now have adversity in a VUCA world, then it becomes overwhelming. It is very, very easy for people to get overwhelmed with it. So the question, therefore, is how do you build resilience? How do you get the capacity that you need to be able to succeed in this kind of environment? Before we go into the specifics of what we are talking about today, it is good to know that we are not the first people to have this situation, and many research has been carried out. And the research is the basis of many of the things that have been found to work and what does not work. And there was a research that was carried out with 15,000 adults. That's a lot of data, all right? And what they found is that people who are not resilient, they struggle to enjoy life. It does not matter how sweet the food is. It does not matter how exciting the company that they're keeping is. They just find it very difficult to enjoy life. Now, what then turned out again is that those who have been able to overcome past difficulties, they seem to then have better capacity to respond to future occurrences of trouble, and then to thrive, and then to be resilient, all right? And they are able to therefore enjoy every day as they go along, even though the research is saying that expectedly, not all adversities are beneficial. However, if you are able to build capacity to overcome one, it gives you more gratitude, it gives you more capacity to enjoy the moment compared to somebody who has never been through any tough situation. And this is important, and I need you to please hold this somewhere at the back of your mind, because we are going to come back to it. Now, the next thing, there was a different research that was done in 2020, and what it found is that, like I said, the more you are able to scale, the more you build capacity, the more you get more resilient, the more you build hardiness, and the more you are prepared and ready to confront future situations. Okay, so the summary therefore is that if you see adversity as an opportunity to build capacity, not only are you in a position to survive today, you are in a better position to enjoy tomorrow, and you are in a much better position to survive tomorrow. And if you then add that to what I said before, that there is no running away from adversity. So stop trying to hide and stop throwing your toys out of the court every time you have an adverse situation. Then it prepares you for life, and you can have a more enriched life. And the last thing, which is very interesting, is that the study also showed that people who are spiritual, and it doesn't really matter by the result of this research as to what exactly they are spiritual about, but understanding their spirituality, having somewhere where you can just drop your requests, having a superior being that you are talking to, and having confidence in that superior being to be able to act on it, has been found to be one of the things that help people to do better in adverse situations. And as a Christian, I can relate, and I can tell you very clearly that if you build the kind of relationship with God as Christianity teaches, it's like Liverpool. You never walk alone. Liverpool Football Club, you never walk alone. And that is one of the biggest things that can relieve you in the face of adversity. So let's talk about it. Anybody wants to contribute anything right now? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about resilience. Let's talk about adversity. Any comment, any contribution? Yes? The floor is open. You can unmute and say anything if you have anything to contribute so far. We are talking about turning adversity to your advantage. Turning adversity to your advantage. Do you have any comments, anything to share? Anybody?
Well, okay, so this is John.
Yes, John, good evening. Thanks for coming. Yes, go on.
So it's a good topic, like as we mentioned. it's going to happen to everybody at this different stage of with respect to different circles of life or something. But what I've noticed or what I've known is having a sort of settled mind or a resolute mind could also help a lot. And that can only be found if you have a good level of spirituality with, the higher being, which is God. So, which I also, and having sort of like a connection of some of those, environments, so to say, so that when some of those adversities strike or something happen, you can tap into that connection anytime and at least feel some solace or have a hope, so to say, or find a path.
Yes, I like that word, find a path. Very, very important. Thank you, John. Yes, any other contribution? Any other contribution? So when we talk about resilience, you can feel free to jump in anytime. Resilience is a very, very important factor for success in life. Again, if it's a given that everybody is going to have adversity at different points in time, then there is no running away from building capacity for resilience. And so when we speak about building resilience, we are saying, how do you build the capacity to cope and to recover from setbacks? Okay? How do you handle when things don't go your way, whether it is on a macro level, countrywide, region-wide, or as an individual level, something that has to do with you personally, that has to do with people that you really care about? How do you ensure that you have what it takes to deal with it? How do you develop the healthy coping skills that prepares you and helps you every step you need to take, like John just said, to find the path to come about it? The truth of the matter is that it's all up to you. It's all about you deciding what you need to do, separating what you can do from what you can do, choosing to focus on what you are able to do something about, having the presence of mind and the confidence to believe in the process, to trust the process, and try stuff, and then ensure that you are measuring if they are not working. You don't throw your arms in the sky and then abandon it, but you see, how can I make it work? And if it's not working, you go back again. What are the options? What can I do now? And get going. Until you get to this point of building resilience, it is easy to drift towards the first primary inkling of every human being, which is blame somebody, play the victim, throw your arms in the sky, and then you lose your ability to get anything out of the situation. So resilience is critical. And there are some components on it. Like I said, this is not a training. So the idea is to create the awareness. We won't be able to go very deep into this because some of the concepts here are 2 days training, 3 days training, if you're going to do that. But the idea is to give you the tidbits of what you need so that it's something you can then dig deeper on or come back to the group chat and ask questions, and then we can provide clarification. So components of resilience, I feel you have competence. If you build yourself to be the person to somebody who can solve problems, to have your own skill set, to be a specialist in something, it's a very, very, very critical factor for resilience because one, it means that there will always be a need for you. And the fact that you are needed helps. Then number two is that being competent means that you are in a position to earn income. And once you're able to earn income, a part of the pressure that can come from not having revenue begins to disappear. So competence is very, very important. Confidence is extremely important, knowing that, look, I can crack you. No matter what it is, I can overcome this. And this is where faith comes in, and this is why I enjoy being a Christian. When you read a verse of the Bible that says things like, I can do all things through Christ that strengtheneth me. You know, all things. Now, when you face an adverse situation and that word comes to your mind and it keeps playing in your mind, even when you are not fully confident about it, you know that I can do all things through Christ, not by myself, through Christ. And then it pushes you to him. And that positive mindset helps you to see options. The higher power comes to intervene in your matter many times, and then things just seems to work out. So confidence is extremely important. Connection, we will talk about that. Character is very, very critical for resilience because it helps people to know who you are. They can vouch for you. They can stand up for you, even when it looks like all the odds are against you. Contribution, we will talk about that, is closely related to connection. But if you are a part of a given society, the day your own adversity comes, what happens? The tendency is there that everybody is going to remember that, oh, this is part of us and we're going to ride off. Then developing the coping skills that we are going to talk about and ensuring that you maintain control mind, of your thinking, of your response is extremely important. But this doesn't tell us how to get there. And therefore, the next part of this conversation will be, how do we build resilience? How do we become resilient? How do we get to that point? Now, I love this quote that came from David Susan. She's one of the leading voices in emotional agility. One of the things that I'm going to talk about. It says, life's beauty is inseparable from its fragility. You cannot, there is no way, unless you want to go and hide in one cave and lock yourself out. Even at that, it does not mean that you're going to be all right. So you cannot separate it. They go together. As you are seeing the good, you are seeing the bad, you are seeing the ugly. It is the person that is driving on the road that can all of a sudden have a bust and have an accident. They are all separated together. It is the person who is trying to make an investment that can lose money. Meanwhile, if that investment comes through, he can also become a billionaire. It's a student who is writing an exam that can fail. Meanwhile, that exam, passing it, may lead to greater success. So it is inseparable. Therefore, the section we are getting to where we want to talk about the real way, the specifics of how do you build resilience is something you need to really, really pay attention to, and feel free to share. Now, for this conversation, I have found it convenient to break how you can turn adversity into advantage into 4 buckets. And I'm not sure whether we'll finish the 4, even though I'll try to do that so that the following week, the following edition can be about bringing in the application. There are 4 buckets. The first bucket, which is the biggest bucket, which is the most difficult bucket, which is the most significant bucket, which, if it is not there, affects everything else, is the emotional and the psychological element. If this is missed, everything else is not possible. And as you will see, the second bucket is the social bucket. The third is the physical bucket, how you deal with, how you can use your physiology to your advantage. And the last, of course, is the spiritual. So we will be dealing with these 4 buckets. What we will be focusing on is, how do you take care of the emotional and psychological element, the social element, the physical element, the spiritual element, to build resilience so that you are equipped to turn adversity into advantage. Let's go. So when we talk about emotional and psychological, I will be talking about it along 6 lines. And like I said, this is not a training. This is just an experience sharing session, because we'll come to those experience sharing sessions in a while. But you want to build resilience. The very first thing is to be sure that your why is very clear. If you go to the Delight channel, I have a couple of videos that speaks on purpose. One of the things that keeps people going, you know, you go and read about people who have been bankrupt and have bounced back, and then they've been bankrupt again and they have bounced back. You'll be shocked as to what keeps them going. I don't know how many of you have read the story of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs started Apple, wanted to build the most sexy laptop in a world where there was nothing like that. He did everything he could. He lost his way. He was fired from a company that he started. In fact, the case I read about him said that one of his best friends was so afraid that he thought he was going to commit suicide. And what did he do the following day? He packed his bag, went on a camped outside, spent a few days there. The friend had to follow him, spent a few days there, and then he came up with the pizza idea. And the pizza became a hit. Meanwhile, Apple was struggling. And then they now had to bring him back into Apple after how many years of struggle. And then the hit and the success now didn't come from Macintosh, which was the name of the PC. It came from iPod, and the rest. Check out the link that John has just shared on the group chat, on the chat page for this meeting. But what keeps you going in times like that is purpose. He just knew that he has a calling around the technology space, and he was determined to figure it out. When use is not clearly established, misuse, abuse is inevitable. So if you don't get the purpose of why you are here, I believe strongly that everybody is here for a purpose. You didn't just show up on planet Earth by accident. There is a reason why God created you. And there are ways and means by which you can establish purpose. I can't go into details, but one is to check your tag. Like a shirt, like a dress will have a tag. Tag stands for talent and gifts. If that doesn't help you, second is to look at what is it that you are attracted to. What's that thing that you always see, that's always calling you every single step of the way? Number three is for you to ask yourself, if you got $100 million today, it's a gift, it's a dash. You don't have to do anything to pay it back. What will you spend the rest of your life doing? Because you have to do something. But if 1 and 2 and 3 doesn't work, then what is standing in front of you? Because again, it's not accidental. What's that thing that is around you? What's that opportunity that you have? Just start from there. But this is a deeper conversation. But the first thing is to establish purpose. If you don't get your why, it is very difficult for you to move. In fact, if you move, you may end up moving against yourself, and it can be an exercise in futility. So you want to turn adversity to advantage, establish your why. And it's a lifelong journey. Some people know it very quickly, very, very early. They just know what they're supposed to be doing. They know why they're here. Some need help, some need time, but everybody can discover what their purpose is. And that is the starting point. Because once purpose is clear, then you realize that every time you run into an obstacle, it will all be part of what you need to go through, like paying school fees to get to where you are going. You don't feel overwhelmed. You don't feel deterred. That's the first. Purpose. The second, which is extremely critical, are your belief systems. How do you see the world? The sad thing is that many of these are formed in the first 7 years of our lives. They are reinforced in the next 7, and then they are validated in the last 7. By 21, it's set. Not that you can't change it, but you now have a lot more work to do to even be able to identify before you can talk about changing. How do you see the world? Take as an example. If you think that the world is a war front, and that you cannot trust anybody, that when people tell you they love you, they don't mean it, that when people are nice to you, there's something they are looking for. If that is how you see the world, what happens every time you have love or help around you? You are very suspicious. If you live in a world where you say, no, if it's just one person that is to get the benefit, if I get there, it's going to be me. All things work together for good for me. Again, spirituality. You have those belief systems that as God has my back, that all things work together for good for me. Nothing can happen to me behind my God. The way you see the world affects your ability to respond when adversity comes. And the biggest belief system that I want to speak to today, which I find very, very prevalent, including with me, which I'm just now beginning to overcome, being a perfectionist myself, and I'll talk about that later, hopefully next edition, is that we think that there is something we can do that can make us avoid trouble. I got news, nothing. There are troubles that are avoidable. Troubles that come from bad choices, troubles that come from reckless living, troubles that come from breaking God's law. When you keep His law and you live right, you can avoid those troubles. But there are troubles that come purely because you are alive, because you are a human being. And the truth of the matter is that the primary assignment we have as human beings, as long as you are breathing and you are well, is to solve problems. So there is no running away from it. That's a belief system. So stop thinking that there is something you can do that can make you run away or avoid it. It does not happen that way. And so once you are settled in your mind that you can go to bed last night feeling well and wake up this morning and not be well, and it's okay. Your job is to figure out what you need to become well. That you can actually go to bed yesterday having love in your life and wake up this morning and the person is now a different person. That it is okay. Your job is to figure out how. The point where your mind is always in this ready state to say, like the current MTN advert in Nigeria, what are we doing today? Every time you wake up, just get ready. What problem am I supposed to be solving today? When you are wired like this and you think about your world like this, a lot of the energy that goes into complaining, that goes into whining, that goes into bitching, that goes into shutting down, immediately switches into solving problems. This is big. Most people, there is a research that was done recently that says that stress is bad only for those who think that stress is bad for them. Very shocking research. But we used to think that, stress is negative. No. Stress has been proven to only become a problem to those who carry it in their head like, I am overworked. Can you imagine, I have children, and you find one who is always complaining about work. The work becomes more tedious. It becomes more stressful. The same work. You find another one that there's something to be done. She jumps into it joyfully. What do you find? It's easier. It's faster. It makes it more complicated when you approach things you have to do from a whining and complaining point of view. And the driving force are your belief systems. And the day you know that the problems that you face in life is actually designed to build your capacity for solving problems, and that the bigger your capacity for solving problems is, the higher the value you are able to create, and that the higher the value you are able to create, the bigger the result you are able to appropriate for yourself. That's the day you get liberated. The bigger the problem, the higher the opportunity you have to build capacity. And the bigger the capacity you are building, the higher the value you can create. And the higher the value you can create, the more the money you can make. The more the value, the result you can appropriate. That's just how it is. So we go back to the Steve Jobs story. It was Macintosh they were struggling with, then they went to iPod, that was successful. Then because of that, they created iPad, that was successful. Now, after that, somewhere in that journey was where the PC now came back and became a revenue line. I don't know if I'm making sense to somebody here. The point is, every time there's something landing in your way, it is usually because it requires to build you up. And once you start thinking about it like that, that it's about building me up, that it is not meant to tear me down, that it's not meant to derail me, you are like halfway down the line in turning adversity into advantage. What time is it? It's getting to 7. The third thing here is responsibility. One of the most important things you can ever hear, and that can be so transformational, is what I'm about to say. Take responsibility for your life. It matters not how you were born. It matters not where you were born. It matters not what you've gone through. Once you are ready to take responsibility for your life. And what is responsibility? When I teach this, I try to talk about it as the ability to respond. Once you know that there is nothing that confronts you that you do not have the ability to respond to, oh my God, there is nothing that can stop you. Being settled in your mind that you have the ability to respond, either on your own, in conjunction with other people, you need to take responsibility. Because what happens when you start to blame other people is that you surrender your power. You surrender your power, you surrender your power, you surrender your ability to make any change and to change anything. And that's extremely, extremely critical. Take responsibility. It doesn't matter. Once you know this thing standing in front of me, I have the ability to respond. I have what it takes to respond. Boom, your head is liberated. You see differently. You think differently because you are not watching over your shoulder and thinking that, oh, I got to blame this or I got to blame that. No, you do not have anybody to blame because the energy that will have gone into blaming people is the energy that you will immediately channel into solving the problem. Taking responsibility. The number 4 is how you interpret situation. The truth of the matter is that events are neutral. Events are neither good or bad, nor bad. It is about what interpretation that you are putting on it. So you went for an interview and then you were not taken. What's the interpretation? Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I can never pass an interview. What does that tell you? You shut down. You stop trying. You stop. You lose confidence. Like we said, components of resilience. But somebody goes and the same situation fails an interview. That person says, I'm responsible, goes to learn. Was that something I could have prepared for? Did I miss out something? No, yes, learns and knows that, okay, the meaning is that this is a dress rehearsal for me for a bigger job that I'm about to get. And then keeps us a positive attitude and keeps searching. Completely transformational. Same event, but different interpretations, and the interpretations define your actions. So events are neutral, including the one we consider very bad. A child is born without arm, without leg. Some parents will say, hey, what kind of child is this? What do I need to do? They go and abandon the child. This child has no future. Go and look at Nick Vujicic, that man now that has no hand, has no leg. Today, I read somewhere that if you want to book him to come and talk, you need to give him 2 years because his calendar is usually booked for 2 years straight. Yet he has no hand, he has no leg. Similar situation, abandoned child, same situation, now a rock star. Somebody loses a parent. Oh, my father died, that's why I didn't go to school. That's why I'm not progressing. Another person loses parents and says, you know what? This is the reason why I cannot but succeed, because I don't have anybody to look out for me. So if I don't study, if I don't look after myself, I am on my own. I cannot compare myself with those who have fathers. So I must work double. Similar scenario, different interpretations. Interpretations are so powerful. And therefore, I will always say that any interpretation that lowers your vibration, you need to chunk it. Any interpretation that lowers your vibration, that makes you less empowered, that gives you less drive, that gives you less push, you need to stay away from me, because for every scenario that you face, trust me, there are options. There are positive interpretations, there are negative interpretations. Once you learn how to find the positive, empowering interpretation to it, you are on your way to turning that adversity to an advantage. Now, I'm not speaking about denying the reality. I'm not speaking about living in a fake world. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying finding an interpretation to it that keeps up your vibration so that you don't lose your energy, you do not lose your steam. So this is the biggest bucket, because it is the battle that you find between these two ears that determine what goes on anywhere else. If we miss it, nothing else can work. Social won't solve the problem. Physical won't solve the problem. You can't even pray, because start questioning God. Does God exist? What goes on here? So it's critical, very, very critical, that you remember that these emotional and psychological are the biggest elements that if you get sorted, everything else is easy to layer on it. I have 2 more. Emotional agility. I wish I had the time to deal with this. Don't deny your emotions. It is not about denying or lying about your emotions or ignoring them. It's about being able to be aware of your emotions. It's about being able to live with your emotions, being aware of what you are feeling, being able to call it the precise name that it is. It's not for you to say, oh, I am sad, because you are not your emotions until you start acting on them. Your emotions are just data points that it's up to you how you mix them to create information. And data does not take information by itself. So emotions give you data points, and that's why somebody who is emotionally agile would not say, I am sad, because now it makes you look like you are exactly your emotion. But you begin to say things like, I have a sense that I'm feeling sad. And then you can now decide whether you want to allow that sadness to overwhelm you, or you want to say, but why should I feel sad? Okay, I lost money. Can I do something about it? No, I can't. So then what is this feeling sad going to do for me? Nothing. Or can you do something about it? Yes, you can apply to the bar, you can call this, then do it. So there's a situation, you appraise it to say, what can I do about it? You can do something, get going with that thing. We will get to that when we talk about the social, the physical side. If there's nothing you can do about it, stop crying about it. It doesn't bring it back. Move. Learn and move, learn and move, learn and move. So emotional agility is extremely, extremely important. This is not about good emotions or bad emotions. It's about being aware of the emotions in your head, being able to call the emotions the right name and describe it appropriately, and then being able to act based on the higher values. You see why we started with purpose. Because once your purpose is clear and you are able to identify and name your emotions, then you get to the point where you are in a position now to take the necessary steps that will lead you towards the value you want to create. But it is about taking responsibility. I have what it takes to respond. I have the ability to respond. This is extremely, extremely important. I have the ability to respond. So, purpose, belief system, responsibility, interpretation, emotional agility. Last but not the least is gratitude. Gratitude. Gratitude works like charm. Because at any point in time, if you learn to count your blessings, there will be things you will be grateful for. There will be things you have every reason to be thankful for. And as you get into that space, it improves the level of the positive hormones, the sweet hormones, the joyful hormones, serotonin, dopamine. It improves them in your system such that you begin to get more energy, more drives, more power that moves you towards where you are supposed to be going to. Because if you are not grateful, see, there is something that is called paranoia. It is in the ontology of the human being. We are naturally drawn to the things that are not working. So you see somebody and you say, hey, what do you want? It takes some time for them to go to that point of being able to list the things that they want. But ask anybody, what do you not want? Hey, the list is very long. I don't want this, I don't want that. In fact, sometimes in talking about what we don't want, we talk about what we want. In talking about what we want, we actually frame them in the frame of what we don't want. Oh, I don't want to die. Oh, I don't want to be broke. Meanwhile, what you really want to say that I want to be comfortable, I want to be rich. So, as human beings, we are wired towards what is not working. We see that more often. But when you become grateful, you are training your eye to see the pronoia, the opposite of paranoia, the pronoia, where you are now training your eyes to see what is positive, what is good, what is working, what should you be grateful for. And that gratitude then gives you the energy that you need for you to go forward. The energy that you need for you to take charge, the energy that you need for you to move forward. So the dopamine, the oxytocin, the serotonin, all these things are things that are improved when you are grateful. And like I said, it's all and primarily about your mind. Therefore, if there is a place where you want to start this battle of turning adversity into advantage, it is about getting control of your emotions, getting control of your psyche. Are you clear about your life's purpose? Are you aware of the belief systems that have shaped your paradigm, that have shaped your perspective, that have shaped your world outlook, that are directly affecting how you engage the world around you, how you are interacting, how you are relating? Are you taking enough responsibility for your life where you can say, I have the ability to respond, therefore it doesn't matter what has gone on, it doesn't matter what has caused it, I take responsibility and I will do something about it? Are you aware that your interpretation is very critical to how you deal with anything that life throws at you? Are you aware that emotional agility prepares you to be aware, to take ownership, and then based on your higher values and the values that drive your life, you then take the right action? Are you aware that gratitude is something that if you practice, if you have an attitude of gratitude, that it is very, very difficult for you to be overwhelmed with adverse situation, because there will always be something to be grateful for. And as you find those things you are grateful for, you are better equipped to taking them forward and then using that strength to deal with the new things that are going to confront you. Are you aware of that? This is foundational. I do not want to kind of overrun this. It's already 7 o'clock. So I think it's a good point for me to stop. Can we have an open mic on this? What do you have to say about what we've shared? The emotional and psychological side of building resilience, which is the key to turning adversity into your advantage. The floor is open. You can just unmute and just share your thoughts so far on what you heard and what you've seen. Anybody?
Okay, this is John again.
Yeah,
okay,
John.
So it's a good reminder of things one needs to keep in his diary. I mean, even as has been stated, as the world is changing. So part of the thing that one may also have in mind is, I mean, it's normally being taught in management school, but you have risk management, and having known that life itself has risk and getting ready to, take those risks. And I like some of those points where it said that the first 7 years, the second 7 years, the third 7 years to 21. So, I mean, as adults, we must be able to track, look back, and see if we have deficit really. So yeah. Maybe sometimes so
we
that's
all do.
Yes.
We all
yes.
do.
So because it's good sometimes to just do an audit and just check, do I have deficit, and then being able to cover it. Okay, yes. So I would say may God help.
We all have deficit, actually, all of us.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
We have deficit on different things. Sorry, there's slide out here, but I'll be light soon. We have deficit on different things because we are all products of nature and nurture. Yes. And how we were raised, the environment in which we grew. I mean, it's very difficult. There is no precise science to raising children. And that's why, to your point, is to always have that audit.
Yes.
I'm going to share my own story. It's not going to be today in terms of the flow.
Yeah.
But at some point, I had a lot of inferiority complex, which is very traceable to the event that happened early in my life because my father died when I was 9. And I will share that story. And at some point in my adult life, even before I got this knowledge, I had to do a lot of this self-talk and this emotional check to say, hey, but why? Your father died. Was it you that killed him?
Yeah, that's true.
How does that now define you?
Yeah.
How does that now shape you? Why should that now be the reason you couldn't pay school fees? Is that about you? Is that why you now be feeling inferior to the people whose fees were paid? It wasn't because of what they did. It was because of what their parents did. So now you do something for your own children.
Yes.
So, but those kind of things take time. You have to be aware of them and be able to deal with them.
Yes.
And this is extremely important. So, how to get this sorted and be aware of this knowledge and how you use them is extremely important. Okay, so yes,
and I like the part of responsibility too.
Yeah,
because
go on, sir.
Somehow in Africa, I know it's not everybody. I mean, for a good number of people that excel in school or somehow, so you have some sense of career or academic responsibility. There are other, so we also need to take like risk management responsibility. Maybe that's how I'll call it. So you may have, maybe you've been able to excel, and just like it has been said, they are good students, and then one way or the other, they just do some maybe certification or professional exams and they didn't pass, and then you ask him or her, say, I'm not doing that again, it's not going to work. So that's not being able to manage some of those maybe risk management deficits in a career-wise. The person may be good managing it academically, maybe may not be good managing it professionally, maybe.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Very well said. And those are the details we'll be going to when we talk about the micro and the macro level, but well said. Yes, any other contribution? Okay, so I do not want this to be too loaded. I am thinking that maybe we should just land it here, or do you think I should take the social as well? So what do you think? Should I just stop, or you want me to go on? Because I really didn't want this to be like a training. I wanted it to be more around the conversational side. And I think I've done an hour now. I like to just keep it very short and sweet. And then maybe we'll pick it up next contact. Or should I continue? What do you say?
For me, it's a good topic, and it's good for one to sleep over it, take over it for what we have had. Well, that's for me. And for what you call YouTube standard presentation, so that it will not be long. So there is this research that once it's long on YouTube, people may not be able to finish it up, or
it's a fact. It's a fact. It's a fact.
So,
Chinwenchu is saying there's plenty to chew on. Okay, so I agree. So we'll just kind of stop it here, and then looks like we may have to do it more than two parts like we thought, but I think it's better we just go slowly. So by way of summary, if I may, is to say that there is no need getting agitated and overwhelmed when things do not go your way, because it wasn't designed to all go your way. So every day you wake up, the question is, what problem will I be having to solve today? What problem will I have to solve today? Day after day. Some problem, they start one day, you can finish them the same day. Some may take a week, some may take a term, some may take a year, some may take multiple years. But the question is, what problem am I supposed to be solving? And then the idea is approach it like you are aware that solving problem builds capacity, and the bigger the capacity you are building, the bigger the value you're able to create, and the bigger the value you create, the bigger the value you are able to appropriate to yourself. And that's extremely important. And once you see it that way, which is now talking about belief system, and you are taking responsibility, and you ensure that no matter what goes on, you give it the interpretation that empowers you, then you layer gratitude on top of it, and you are equipped to deal with all the emotions going on in your head without thinking that, oh, this is good or bad, but that they are all there. They are data points. My job is to focus on them, make sense out of them, and then based on the whatever I find, I am then able to decide how I'm supposed to move. That is one of the biggest value you can get that can help you build resilience, because you are not your emotions until you act on them. Emotions are data points. They are not directives. They are not instructions. Our job is to take those data points and then use them to our advantage by looking at what exactly is my purpose. Now that this has happened, how do I then handle this in a manner that it continues to lead me in the direction that I want to go? And then you stand up, and day after day, you work at it, you work at it, you work at it. You are your way to building resilience. Like the research said, those who have been able to handle adverse situations in the past, they are more equipped to enjoy the future, and they are more equipped to overcome every other adversity that comes their way subsequently. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. September, by the grace of God, we will be here to pick this up one more time and then see how we will learn more and grow more and become more resilient. But whatever you are dealing with right now, let me just end with this. It is an opportunity for you to become a better person. Do not allow it to overwhelm you. Do not allow it to drain you. Find the positive interpretation to give to it, and then use that interpretation to your benefit, and then see how you will flourish in the middle of what looks like a hopeless or negative situation. Thank you very much. I don't know if there's any final word from anybody before we wrap it up.
Thank you for sharing freely.
Thank you, Chinwe. Good to hear your voice. Anything else from anybody? Okay, so Idowo Motola joined us a bit late. This, I believe, is a very, very important conversation. We'll be sharing it. If you registered for the program, we'll share the link so that you could listen, and then feel free to share. Many people are dealing with stuffs that are not written on the face, and we do not want to just be involving them, God forbid, after something has happened. Before we finish this series, we'll be sharing some very deep, real life experiences, and that is why we have HeyCoach. And if you have not joined the Telegram group, please join, so that if there are issues you want to talk about, deal with, you can get answers on the go as you start. You do not have to even wait for the end of the month for us to have the conversation. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll stop here and see you sometimes next month, usually the last Saturday. Thank you, and have a fabulous Sunday ahead.